when sisterly love turns sour, exposing my sister's shocking wedding sabotage. But I'm about to tell you anyway. Are you ready? I'm just going to dive right in, because when something as crazy as this happens, you don't exactly have time to think twice. So, my sister Dove, don't worry, I'll get to that name shortly. It's a long story, has always been the golden child in our family. Not just because our parents loved her more than me. It's not like that. By the way, they're actually pretty great and supportive, but I digress. But mainly because she's just, well, she's a bit of a handful. Let me start from the beginning. Growing up with Dove was like staying in a never-ending soap opera, where she was the star and I was just the loyal prop in the background. Oh, the drama, oh, the tears, oh, the accidental manipulation. You name it, she'd mastered it. As a kid, she'd forget my birthday presents, only for me to find them in her room with Dove snuggled up with a shiny new toy, beaming with pride. I mean, who needs siblings when you've got a fake present-setting fireworks in your room kind of sister? But hey, I learned to just roll with it. Fast forward to high school, she spread ridiculous rumors about me, my clothes, my social life, and even my favorite pizza toppings. Seriously. I mean, who can you trust, really? But fun fact, rumor has it, by rumor, I mean basically confirmed by our town's rumor mill, that Dove used to inadvertently take the high score on the school's arcade games just so I'd get upset and question my own skills. Yep, she's got talent. But the cherry on top, our namesake for Dove. Now, let me explain where one amazing, delightful name comes from. It's actually named after the bird. Super sweet, yes? But honestly, some may think that after certain events involving feathers getting ruffled, literally after one sibling got dragged across a wet carpet, combined with having to learn fly into storms as a constant response. This one came the choice clear for us. Love her from afar, right? Anyway, as we all grow up and literally figure out flying away, I got wiser, bolder, and less eager to roll over for her. When it came time to grow up, I left. Long story, yes, another long one, and Dove started hitting real life hard. Which brings us to the main course of this you won't believe what happened kind of story, basically. This is where she took on her new leading role. Our family actually witnessed the rise of her final alter ego, marrying a businessman. Just 18 months later, guess what? She was caught embezzling funds, hosting extravagant galas, using Daddy's checkbook unseen by Daddy. This left an unfortunate, financially influenced first marriage behind. Who did she marry? The newly released ex-thug James. Dove took rapid moves. How did she recover, for crying out loud, after her loss? Being as smooth as butter melting on overcooked toast, and trying too little at his wife being a habitual ex-husband, showed her skills not being too rusty. Try making an easy-said divorce sound like the other party just gave up because my love didn't commit. Fast forward until, let's say, roughly 6 seconds from before, happened at my very wedding. Just when I was going to spend my morning marrying the love of my entire life, Dove, my former nightmare, burst into scene. Growing up with Dove was like living in a never-ending soap opera, complete with drama, romance, and a healthy dose of backstabbing. Only instead of actors, we had family members, and instead of scripts, we had reality TV. Okay, fine. It was just my life with Dove as the star. As I look back, I realized that our parents just handed her the key to the castle, where she promptly locked me out and lived happily ever after as the resident queen bee. I swear, their love for her was only rivaled by Dove's love for herself. It was like they put out a neon sign that read, "Dove is our favorite child. Come worship at her altar." Don't get me wrong, I'm not jealous or anything. Cough, cough. It's just that she took a magic pill when we were young, and suddenly she was the most popular kid in school, the star of the debate team, and the queen of the school play. I mean, I was over here just trying to survive middle school without too many awkward haircuts, while Dove was out there nailing speeches, scoring touchdown passes, and executing flawless pirouettes. It was like she had an invisible cape that made her virtually unstoppable. As a result, I found myself relegated to the role of Best Supporting Actress, forever stuck in the background while Dove took center stage. Our parents would coo and fawn over her every accomplishment, never once stopping to consider that maybe, just maybe, I existed too. But hey, at least I got to be her trusty sidekick, always ready to roll up my sleeves and help her shoulder the weight of her own ego. High school was a particularly delightful chapter in our sibling saga. That's where Dove really outdid herself, spreading rumors about my life like she was scattering fairy dust. The toxic kind, of course. I mean, who needs actual facts when you've got a burning desire to destroy your sibling's reputation? I lost count of how many times she accidentally left her phone in my backpack, its screen flashing with juicy gossip about how I was dating the cute but awkward nerd, or how I was secretly a closeted fan of the Justin Bieber. True story. My social life was like a game of musical chairs. Every time I thought things were looking up, Dove would spin the wheel of drama and send it all crashing down. To make matters worse, my parents would just swoop in and whisk Dove away, scolding me like I was the actual perpetrator, all while Dove pretended to be innocent as a lamb. It was like they thought I was crying wolf, even though I was positive that I was, in fact, being wolf said. Look it up. They'd tell me to stop being sensitive or to get over myself and focus on being a good sister. But what they didn't understand was that I was playing a supporting role in a drama that I never actually signed up for. Those were just a few of the highlights from my glorious childhood, where I played the role of loyal sidekick to my resident superstar, Dove. But hey, when you're used to living in the shadow of a superstar, you learn to adapt and become a pro at just going with the flow. Little did I know that the drama was only just beginning, and Dove was about to unleash a whole new level of acting, one that would take our family on a wild ride and put our relationship to the ultimate test. So, Dove did what narcissists do best. In this case, it meant snagging a wealthy husband with a better address and a deeper wallet. James, the unsuspecting target, seemed like the perfect catch, or so our family thought. We were all abuzz with excitement when Dove announced they were getting hitched, mainly because it felt like we'd won them the lottery. I mean, who wouldn't want to be related to a rich benefactor, right? But what our family failed to notice was the fine print. Dove had already written herself into the prenup as the sole beneficiary of James's fortune. We later discovered that this convenient arrangement was done without his knowledge or consent, a sly move by Dove, who was determined to secure her financial future. Essentially, she'd married him for his bank account, not for love, and we should have seen it coming. How do you celebrate the union of a couple when one of them has an insatiable taste for designer labels? Dove didn't disappoint. The elaborate wedding extravaganza she orchestrated for her beloved James was an over-the-top spectacle that left many questioning her priorities. Think haute couture gowns, artisanal candles, and bespoke catering on steroids. As I recall, the wedding venue was a beautiful, sprawling estate that James had inherited from his great-aunt. Dove had rented out the entire property, filling it with lavish decorations, live music, and of course, an almost endless supply of fine wines. I swear, I saw more champagne bottles than a Quantum of Solace marathon. My family was in awe, mainly because we'd never seen Dove splurge this lavishly before. 18 months is a ridiculously short time for any marriage, let alone one involving a narcissist and a millionaire. James had grown tired of Dove's antics, probably due to her incessant need for validation, shopping sprees, and solo performances. In her defense, Dove did have an impressive talent for playing the victim, weaving a web of deceit that left everyone questioning her role in the impending doom. Turns out, the stress of being in a relationship with a sociopath like Dove took its toll, even on someone with James's financial savvy. When the inevitable happened and the marriage ended, Dove suddenly discovered a newfound interest in personal growth and self-awareness. Who knew she was so introspective? Classic Dove, never her fault, always someone else's. When James approached Dove about divorce, she didn't take it well. Instead of taking responsibility for her actions, she immediately shifted the blame onto James, insinuating that he was emotionally unavailable, unsupportive, and quite frankly, tacky, for not reciprocating her endless demands for attention. Fast forward to the aftermath, where Dove dramatically portrayed herself as a victim, her Instagram stories showcasing her alleged weeping tears and crushed dreams. Meanwhile, James was left to salvage what was left of his psychological well-being. When the media caught wind of the drama, we all witnessed Dove's masterpiece of manipulation, where she shifted from heartbroken to empathetic victim. In a span of 12 hours, all in the name of sympathy, and of course, more attention. It's safe to say that Dove's narcissistic tendencies didn't exactly make her a welcome addition to our family gatherings. The divorce served as a warning sign. Our family finally realized that Dove's behavior was not about us. It was about her, and her insatiable craving for adoration and power. Fast forward to my wedding, where Dove chose the most inopportune moment to reveal her true colors once more. Coming to life with Atlas. It's funny how our lives can change in an instant. One minute, I'm clumsily fumbling with a latte, and the next I'm locking eyes with the love of my life, Atlas. It sounds dramatic, I know, but trust me, it was like the universe decided that I needed a drink, a laugh, and a dash of serendipity. That fateful day at the coffee shop, I was already late for a meeting, of course, and my hands were shaking so hard that I might as well have been trying to conduct an orchestra with a pair of drumsticks. As I carelessly juggled my coffee, latte, and bagel, disaster struck. Again. This time, the latte spilled all over Atlas's laptop. I mean, it was like I had a personal vendetta against his electronics. My heart sank. I could imagine the horror on his face, the disgust at the sight of the mess I had created. But instead, he surprised me with an effortless chuckle and a warm smile. "I think I might need a new laptop," he said with a wink. "But a latte sounds like a great idea right about now. Would you like to buy me one?" I was taken aback, not just by his effortless charm, but also by his unfazed demeanor. It was clear he wasn't the type to sweat the small stuff. We struck up a conversation, and before I knew it, we'd spent hours talking about everything and nothing. Our dialogue flowed like a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, rich, bold, and full of depth. Over the next few weeks, Atlas and I found ourselves running into each other all the time, at coffee shops, parks, and even the grocery store. Each encounter left me feeling more at ease, more connected to this kind person who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. Eventually, we started exchanging numbers, and before I knew it, we were meeting up for coffee, of course, a few times a week. Our conversations grew deeper, and so did our connection. I tried to put him off for as long as possible, afraid to introduce him to my family. I'd heard too many horror stories about my Dove's behavior, and I knew I needed to protect what we had. So I made Atlas wait for 6 whole months. 6 months of casual dating, long conversations, deep laughter, and soulful connections. And then, finally, I knew it was time to take the next step. With a mix of excitement and nervousness, I invited Atlas to meet my family. Little did I know that would be the catalyst for a whole new story. It was only then that our journey from ordinary acquaintances to unlikely soulmates began to unravel. And while I've faced many more moments of drama and anxiety, one thing is certain. Atlas has been my anchor, my compass, and my forever haven. The constant that ground me to earth and made me realize that our love story was worth the stormy waters we would inevitably face. When Dove met Atlas, I thought I'd witnessed every possible scenario of her trying to sabotage my relationships. But this was on a whole new level. I mean, I'd seen her pull some pretty ridiculous stunts over the years, from sending me sad selfies to make me feel guilty for not responding to her, because her non-existent self-esteem issues had nothing to do with it, to accidentally leaving her drama-filled voicemails on my voicemail, aka, "I'm emotional, so just listen." But this was a whole new level of desperation, aka her usual modus operandi. As soon as Dove laid eyes on Atlas, I could see the gears turning in her head. That unmistakable glint in her eye said it all. She wanted what was mine. And when I say mine, I mean Atlas. My Atlas, not hers. The way she'd leer at him during family gatherings, or the way she'd awkwardly, accidentally bump into him in the kitchen, all while batting her eyelashes like she was trying out for a part in a rom-com. It was like watching a subpar soap opera, one where the script was written by a team of angsty teenagers. She'd show up at our place unannounced, wearing something that could only be described as a fashion victim's nightmare. I'm talking neon pink yoga pants, a lime green tank top, and a hairstyle that screamed, "I just rolled out of bed and yet I still managed to be a disaster." And through it all, Atlas would withstand her assault like a hero, politely smiling and making small talk while I seethed with pride, wondering how he could resist her charms. What was even more infuriating was when she tried to home in on Atlas specifically, under the guise of being a friendly future sister-in-law. Newsflash, Dove, just because you're going to be an aunt doesn't mean you have to become BFFs with my partner. It was like you had a serious case of FOMO, fear of missing out, or rather, on the romance.
Oh, Atlas, you're so funny. I wish I could find a man like you.
Yeah, sure. Like, we hadn't all seen you trying to desperately cling to the nearest male friend since high school. You still can't get it together, can you? But Atlas remained unfazed. His radar for detecting toxic behavior must have been like a superpower, alerting him to the perils of Dove's relentless advances. He'd politely extricate himself from her awkward clutches, either by making a quick exit or simply by not responding. Like he was dismissing her like the mere novelty that she was, a throwaway doll, manufactured to be entertaining at first, but ultimately disposable. The best part was when she started trying to accidentally touch his arm or remind him of some mundane fact, because why not? In order to, in theory, build a connection. That display of clumsy desperation was either laugh-out-loud funny or absolutely disturbing. I wasn't quite sure which. All I knew was that Atlas had the presence of a non-drama sensing adult, exuding pure, unadulterated calm in the face of Dove's emotional chaos. At this point, I thought our wedding day was going to be a total disaster. Not just because of Dove's antics, but because of Atlas's possible awkwardness around all this drama. How was he going to handle my psycho sister trying to swoon over him while I was getting ready to marry him? I was so worried that our special day might turn into a three-ring circus with Dove as the star performer of Totes Unhinged. But the universe, in all its quirky, hilarious, and somewhat merciful glory, had other plans. What happened next? I'll let the story unfold from then on, but trust me when I say it gets even juicier. Finally, I'd had enough. I confronted her after she accidentally sent Atlas a swimsuit selfie asking for his opinion. What exactly are you trying to do? I demanded.
Oh my God, you're so paranoid. He's practically my brother-in-law. I'm just being friendly.
Our parents got involved, and guess whose side they took? Dove is just being Dove. You need to stop being so insecure. But the wedding day? Oh, the wedding day was when she really showed her true colors. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff in my life, but this takes the cake. While I was getting my makeup done, Dove snuck into Atlas's room. What she didn't know was that my best friend had set up a security camera after we caught Dove snooping around earlier. I mean, it was like she thought she was in one of those cheesy rom-coms where she gets to walk in on her unsuspecting love interest in a compromising position. Newsflash. Dove, this is real life, not a scripted movie, and you're not the star. The footage shows her walking in wearing nothing but a robe, trying to convince Atlas that he was making a huge mistake by marrying me. I mean, poor Atlas. He had a panic attack, which, by the way, Dove knew about, and had to be helped out by his groomsmen. I swear, I've seen more convincing debates at a middle school cafeteria. At this point, Atlas is pretty much mortified, and I'm standing there, mortified for him. I try to stifle my laughter, but it's no use. The only thing that's preventing me from bursting out laughing is the fact that my poor fiancé is having a full-blown anxiety attack. There's Dove, dripping wet and pretending to be a considerate friend, telling Atlas that we're not compatible, that we're from different worlds, and that he deserves someone better. Like, I get it, Dove. We're not a power couple. I mean, I didn't inherit a fortune from my great-aunt's country estate or anything. But, come on. Meanwhile, Atlas is in denial, trying to explain to Dove that he's already committed to marrying me. But Dove is like a ticking time bomb, a human cannonball just waiting to propel herself at Atlas's sense of decency. And to top it all off, she's wearing a robe that's more suited to a risque fashion shoot on the cover of a men's magazine, not a wedding ceremony at my mom's garden. I mean, it's like Dove has given up on subtlety altogether. She's now officially operating on an entirely different moral frequency, one that rejects the values of empathy, self-awareness, and general human decency. It's almost as if she's auditioning for a part in a crazy drama film, where the plot revolves around a character with multiple personality disorder and an axe to grind. As I watch this whole debacle unfold, I realize that this is not just a regular wedding day. It's a moment of raw, unbridled chaos. Our wedding is no longer a celebration of love and commitment, but a battle between good and evil, with Dove as the agent of chaos, hell-bent on shattering the delicate, fragile equilibrium we've worked so hard to create. And yet, in the midst of all this sheer madness, something remarkable happens. My wedding party springs into action, responding to the crisis with the calmness and coordination of special forces. My maid of honor grabs her phone to film the commotion, while the groomsmen snap Dove out of her reverie with a deft combination of humor and firm grip on her shoulders. Like a Greek goddess emerging from the caldera of Mount Vesuvius, I rise up from the chair, and for a brief, fleeting moment, our eyes lock in a direct gaze that freezes time itself. It's in this instant that I remember why I chose Atlas, because he's not only intelligent and sensitive, but also has the sheer force of character to withstand Dove's toxic maelstrom. Finally, when the dust settles, Dove is gone, our wedding party is still in high gear, and Atlas whispers into my ear, "Has it been a long day?" To which I reply with a definitive yes and the accompanying warm hug, ending the torture of the past hour on our wedding day. Despite the myriad mishaps, our relationship does end up coming out on top, proving that sometimes love does indeed conquer all. As the afternoon moves forward towards our union under the sun, Dove's dastardly plot has unwittingly ended up strengthening our bond, a union we've overcome. Let me tell you, that video was like a warhead exploding in the middle of my parents' world. The initial blast sent shockwaves of anger and embarrassment rippling through the air, making it hard for anyone to breathe. Dad, being the no-nonsense, no-time-for-nonsense kind of guy he is, took one look at the screen, saw his own daughter's face, which, by the way, looked uncannily like a cat in a bathtub, and suddenly turned into a human volcano. He stormed over to Dove, who was still sipping her gin fizz, unrepentant as ever, and ordered her out of the house. Yes, ordered. Like he meant business. I've never seen my dad so angry that his face turned beet red and his eyes started bugging out of their sockets. It was a beautiful sight, really. "Dove," he growled, "you need to get professional help. Now." Dove, being the self-centered narcissist that she is, responded with a dramatic sigh, a fleeting moment of sadness, orchestrated solely for our benefit, I'm sure, and then just got up and walked out. Like, I get it, honey. Your fragile ego can't handle the horror of being thrown out by your own father. But seriously, as if you couldn't see that coming. It was like watching a snake devouring its own tail with an audible snick, snick, snick. Now, the wedding itself was a disaster, but not in the way you'd expect. With Dove banished to who knows where, all the tension and drama just dissipated. It's like someone flipped a switch, and suddenly the air was filled with joy and laughter. It was as if we'd stumbled into some alternate reality where the absence of narcissistic sister person meant we could finally be ourselves without judgment. My bridesmaids started giggling uncontrollably. The music started playing, and I swear, even the white cake bounced with excitement. Dramatic licensing required. We all forgot about the video, about Dove's toxic presence, and about the entire morning's catastrophic events. It was like we had a collective reset button. Suddenly, everything just made sense. The sun was shining, even though it was really just gray. The rain was stopping. It was still raining. And the universe itself seemed to have grinned and given us a thumbs up. 2 hours flew by, like 2 seconds. People arrived, people left, and I swear we traded keys to the kingdom like passing flowers on a tulip-strewn bed. I wasn't even stressed, gasping in horror. Yeah, everyone says wedding days are overwhelming, and so on. But this was just pure grade A entertainment. As for Dove, we've not seen or heard from her since. And honestly, we're all better off that way. Mom and Dad are in therapy, just in case our family comes across any more existential earthquakes like Dove. As for me and Atlas, we celebrated our first anniversary a few days ago, which was perfect, but let's not dive into that, and we're pretty much just living our best normal life. You know what's funny? This whole disaster actually made my relationship with Atlas stronger. It also helped me heal from years of being gaslit by my family. My parents and I are in family therapy now, working through everything. Fast forward to my first family therapy session, where my parents and I got to air out all our pent-up feelings and start working through our collective trauma. I won't lie, It was super uncomfortable at first, but slowly, we began to peel back those layers of don't rock the boat and keep the family intact and see what was really going on. With the help of our therapist, we started to address the elephant in the room, Dove. Not in a mean-spirited way, but in a let's get real so we can move on kind of way. It was liberating, to say the least. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There were still some tough conversations, especially with Mom and Dad, who'd enabled Dove's behavior for far too long. But slowly but surely, we started to work through our roles in the family dynamics and own up to our own contributions to the drama. Last I heard, Dove is still living with that friend of hers, spinning the same old tale of, you ruined my life to anyone who will listen. Meanwhile, I'm just over here, enjoying every moment of my life with Atlas and our chaotic but loving family. You'd think getting caught up in the drama might have made me appreciate the drama more, but honestly, it had the opposite effect. I think I finally reached a point where I realized that I deserve so much better than all that toxic energy. For the first time in my life, I feel free from the shackles of my family's drama, and I owe it all to Dove's epic fail at ruining my wedding day. Who knew that getting sabotaged could be a blessing in disguise? A message to all my fellow adult children of narcissistic parents. If you're anything like me, you know what it's like to be a part of a family where drama is the norm and happiness is just a distant dream. But here's the thing, you don't have to live like that anymore. Take a deep breath, step outside your comfort zone, and start working on yourself. Seek out support groups, therapy, or even just a good friend who'll listen to your rants. Because, let's be real, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have the power to break free from the toxic patterns that have been holding you back for so long, and trust me, the freedom you'll feel when you do is like nothing else. Wrap up and final thoughts. Sometimes it takes a little bit of chaos to get our priorities straight. My sister's antics may have been the catalyst for my family's therapy journey, but it was a wake-up call I desperately needed. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows now, far from it. But what I am saying is that I finally feel like I'm living the life I deserve, and that's a beautiful thing. So, to Dove out there, I just want to say thanks, sis. Your epic fail at ruining my wedding day might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. To everyone else, I hope our crazy story inspires you to find your own silver linings and start living your best life.